Hey friends, T-Nix here. Welcome back to the Expat Files. The important message I want to bring to you today is the value of real assets. We are already in an environment where paper wealth is going to be revalued, right? There's a gigantic accounting problem in the world. And what things appear to be worth on paper is going to turn out to be a wild surprise to a lot of people in the years ahead. Now, can real assets also, people think of real assets, you think of something that holds value, and that's generally correct, but can real assets also be overvalued? Of course. The median house price, I believe now, I just saw a figure, can't even imagine this is true. I'm going to check my facts here again after this video. And I may be wrong, but even if I am wrong, the median house price for the last several years has been so unbelievably high in North America, in the United States in particular, where this data came from. I saw a figure that said it's at $450,000. Now, there's not many people who can afford a $450,000 house. Or let's say there's millions and millions of people who can't afford that. There's plenty of people who can, but what about all the people who can? And the fact that interest rates now are more than double, right, on any mortgage, they're more than double than like when I bought this place that I'm recording here in the Caribbean. We almost bottom ticked the mortgage interest rate at 3%. That's a very different payment than somebody paying 6 or 7% on a mortgage. And so real assets at a time like this are going to have tremendous value because when we emerge from whatever end of cycle, fourth turning, right, changing of the guard, shuffling of the new world order, remaking of the world order that's going to come out of these next very tumultuous years, a house is still a house. It's still a place where you can live, right? Precious metals in a vault, you know, short of a giant gold discovery, or I know asteroid mining is coming, or, you know, the ability to desalinate the ocean and pull gold out in really economical quantities. Nothing is going to devalue your gold. It's a real asset. It's something that you can hold in your hand and that took real work to create. You know, Tesla trading at 300 times book or whatever, right? The tremendous overpricing of tech assets, and all of the various big tech stocks, the FANG stocks in the last several years that did so well. These kind of paper assets, obviously, for obvious reasons, will suffer in this kind of environment. And in a real serious kind of grid down, all out war scenario, your real assets will mean more to you than just the wealth that they preserve for you. Now, I am not hoping for this. I am not cheering for that kind of outcome. But there's plenty of, if you sniff the wind, there's plenty of indicators that we could be headed into real unrest, whether that's, adversaries in other parts of the world, civil unrest within North America. Seems to me the likelihood of that is not small. And so what does that do? I have a friend who just texted about his property in owns a place in Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon, here's how they rob you. It's very clever. They set up a work crew and block all the traffic coming down the street. It's a fake work crew, right? They just have uniforms, very sophisticated. They block the traffic, break into your place, loot it, and they're the construction workers, right? And so it certainly looks like everything is legit from the outside. Get away with your things, and when you go to the police and you say, here's what happened, they go, yeah, we know who did it, but we can't prosecute them, or if we do go arrest them, the prosecutor will have them back on the street by tomorrow, and they'll never see a cell. There won't even be a trial. They won't even be held for trial. In that kind of environment, how are you supposed to live? How are people supposed to continue to conduct business and the business of life? You can't hold your valuables in a house in the suburbs in Portland, Oregon. That kind of situation gets out of control very quickly. I suspect what's coming is a kind of vigilante kind of justice and posses of people saying, well, if the state's not going to prosecute these people, then we will. That's typically what happens, right? That is what happens in Colombia, right? Wealthy people in Colombia that have their own justice. They have their own police force, making sure, right, that if something goes wrong, well, they're not counting on the police to sort it out. So in that kind of scenario, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to live and conduct yourself? And then specifically, what is the role of hard assets? Well, in the first place, you have to be able to keep your hard assets safe. That's why we recommend for everybody, you keep some precious metals offshore outside the reach of your government. You keep some actual gold in a vault, not a bank deposit box, but in a vault in some kind of jurisdiction where actual physical violence is much less likely. I mean, of course, there is counterparty risk to having gold in a vault overseas, but it's probably less than having it in a home safe. And you could have both, you should have both, in a place where, right, it can be robbed and taken from you, and there's not even any pretense of law and order and justice. A physical house is nailed down to the land, right? It's something that's going to be valuable unless it gets destroyed. It's something that's going to hold value as a useful asset, even if paper assets are radically devalued. And all paper assets will be harmed and devalued by money printing, by the inflationary kind of cycle that we're in. I'm not a finance guy. I like to think about these things like a regular person thinks about them. But real assets holding their value through really troubled times, this is a theme that I heard some really smart experts talk about. I'm always leery of experts. A lot of them have the expert problem, which is they're too expert at one thing. But the understanding that we're entering a time when real assets are going to be really valuable because they hold value, because they are less subject to, because they hold intrinsic value. I mean, my friend would lecture me that the Austrian economist von Mises made the argument that there is no such thing as intrinsic value, and yet that something is worth whatever the two parties agreeing on transacting it believe that it's worth, and yet there is an intrinsic value in objects, even something like gold, because of precedent, because of utility, right? A house or a yacht's a terrible example. Obviously, a lot of yachts are going to be on sale, I dare say. But the intrinsic value of something that has utility means that it has value. And so what we want to do here at Expat Files is equip you with all of the correct tools, the contacts, thinking that allows you to protect the value of what it is that you've earned and created and accumulated throughout your life, going into what we believe is going to be a very difficult time, much worse than most people are thinking, for much longer. That's what history says. If you think about the hostilities that broke out in July or August of 1914, that period did not end. That period of real disaster in Europe did not end until 1945. That's very sobering. That's 31 years. That's more than a generation. Slaughter, disease, hyperinflation, all the unbelievable social unrest that goes along with bad behavior by the people in charge, and real hatred between peoples, the kind that you cannot recover from, and that drives people to tremendous acts of cruelty and violence. Will it come to that in our part of the world? Who knows? We do know that some of the same ideas are at work today that caused all that trouble then, which is unforgivable. If you think about what happened in, say, the Soviet Union in 1917, maybe these people could be forgiven at the time for believing those ideas would work and that the brotherhood of workers would actually make a better world. It didn't, because it was profoundly ignorant of the human animal, the human psyche, human desires and drives and motivations. But the same ideas are being floated now in North America, in North American institutions, all across the formerly free countries of the West. What's that going to result in? Well, nobody knows, but we do have a precedent. We do have some historical evidence when this experiment was tried before. And if you have real assets, and here's the key, as far as Expat Files is concerned, this is what I want you to take from this video. If you have real assets and they are outside the reach of your home government, that's real estate, that's metals, that's wealth that's stored abroad in a specific legal structure, you are as safe and untouchable and as secure as you are allowed to be in this lifetime. That's our specialty here at Expat Files. I enjoy talking philosophy and trying to bring you guests on the podcast, but mostly what I want is for you to be prepared. I want to give you the kind of tools that allow you to actually make your way with as little fear and trepidation about the future as is possible at this time. And so we've set up something to help you protect your real assets, to move into real assets. Very simply, you can do this, most of you, in a matter of days and really sleep easy. Creating your life outside of your home country is no small task. It's actually a big life decision. But if you're willing to put some effort and some time, and better yet, if you want my help, we can make it very smooth and very easy for you to protect your assets through the coming, well, we don't know what it's going to be, do we? Through the coming months and years, so that when a new day dawns and better times are at hand, you're one of the people who have the foresight to preserve and protect your family and your wealth and your life. That's what we think is important here right now. And I say we, I have a whole team of people working with me to bring you good, up-to-date information on the best places to create your Plan B residency setup, and also the best strategies for making yourself bulletproof. Take the time now to figure out which real assets are going to be best for you. And if you want my help, let me know. You can contact me at the link below. That's enough out of me, and I'll have much more to come. Thanks very much for watching.